Hello guys, welcome to another edition of Practical JavaScript. My name is Udo Blessing, and today I'll be teaching you how to reduce the time it takes to make multiple request calls. Imagine your app, you have to make 4 request calls and each request takes 1 second. You know at the end it's going to take you 4 seconds to complete those requests. That's 4 times 1, and that is too much for a user to wait for you to complete your request call. So in this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to reduce that drastically. Let me show you in practice what I am talking about. Here I've created a dummy API whereby I've added some delays. So here I can delay by 1 second. Here it's going to be delayed by 2 seconds, and same thing for the third request, and I've done the request here. So what I did is that when I'm going to I created a trigger button. When I click the trigger button, this function is going to be called and the request will be run. So here the time would show how many seconds it took for all the requests to be called. So let's see that in work. So when I click on trigger, I see request start, then the first is delayed by 1 second, second delayed by 2 seconds, and third delayed by 2 seconds, and overall is around 5 seconds. That is too much. So now the solution is to use what we call Promise.all. Promise.all helps us to aggregate all the requests and run the request simultaneously. So the first request will not block the second request, and everything is going to get completed simultaneously. Now the implication of this is that the request that takes the longest time will be the final request time for all the requests that you are running. For example, in this our request, the longest request is 2 seconds. So therefore, if I run this after implementing this solution, if I run this, the highest time it will take to complete this will be 2 seconds instead of 5 seconds. That is a drastic reduction, which it makes sense. So let me show you how you can do that. I'm going to create a new function here. Let me call it retrieve faster, because that's what it's going to be doing. It's going to be retrieving faster, and we're going to use our secret weapon, which is Promise.all. So what I'm going to do now is that instead of us to wait for the request to get completed, what we are going to do is to just get the promise. We're going to get the promise from the request, and that's all. We're going to get the promise. If you don't know what promise means, promise is just like it's what it means in English is a promise. So for example, now let's say you promised your friend that you're going to get them a MacBook Pro. That is a promise. When they want to remind you later on, what they will say is that, oh, you promised me 2 days ago you're going to get me a MacBook Pro. So in the real sense, when you promise, you didn't give them the MacBook Pro, but you're just giving them the assurance that later on in the future I am going to give you that. So this is the same thing in this context. When we run fetch without the await, what we are getting is a promise from the fetch API that it is going to give us the real result in the future. That is what it means. So it first gives us a promise, and later on, when we process the promise, we are able to get the real result later on. So that, I don't know if you understand it with the analogy. So that's it. We're going to get a promise. So this promise, later on, we can process the promise to get the exact result we want. And that is what we want to do. So here now we have the first promise. So I'm going to, instead of calling this result, I'm going to call this promise, because that is what it is. It's not the result yet. It is still a promise, still an assurance that we're going to get the real result later on in the future. Okay, so promise 2, promise 3. I'm going to remove this log because all we just get is a bunch of promise logs. Now, what this Promise.all receives is an array of the promises that you want to process, right? So first, I'm going to put this. So the array of the promises that you want to process. So you can put as many as you want here. Of course, you shouldn't have too much. If you're having too much, that means you need to think about the structure of your code. So here we have 3 promises. So what it's going to do is going to run all this simultaneously. Everything is not going to be blocked. Now, in this promise, we have our giant await here. So instead of await, it's going to be just in one place. And what we get is the result, but in an array. We're going to get the result in an array. So what this means is that this promise here in the index of 0 will give us a result in the index of 0. Same thing with promise 2 here, it gives us a result in the index of 1. And we have our third result in the index of 3, because the promise is in the index of 3 here. I hope you understand. So it's just it is mapped to the index. So now that we've run this, we can now process our result. So here I'm going to log out the result, console.log. Because this is a fetch result, we have to still process it using the .text processing, because it's a fetch result, and because that is also an asynchronous method, so it has to be, and we have to wait for the process. But that doesn't take time, so we are good to use our wait here because it doesn't take time, right? If we do not write our wait in front, what we get is a promise. And I want to avoid that because we've actually skipped that process here. So now we have our 3 results. We have our 3 results here. Beautiful. That is what we want. Now take note. Okay, I'm going to keep this here. What I'll do is I'll run another. I'm going to run another. So here now we have 5 seconds. And when we check the network tab, you see it took 1 second here. This took 2 seconds. This took 2 seconds. And you see that. So now we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to open the network tab. We check the console. Console is free. So now this is the method, the function we want to use to retrieve a faster result. This one gets us a slow result. So we're going to change this to retrieve a fast result. So now when I reload and click on trigger, remember I told you that when we use our solution, the request that takes the longest time will be the final time all the requests to be processed, right? So let me trigger the API. Request starts, then we get our result. So where your request was delayed for 1 second, your request was delayed for 2 seconds, your request was delayed for 2 seconds. Now check the overall time. How many seconds did it take? 2 seconds as opposed to 5 seconds here. And look at our network tab. It is still the same. 1 second, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. Same thing with the network tab here. 1 second, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. But the result is that we were able to get all the results faster. So let me just make the console cleaner so that you can see it properly. I think it's all jumbled up there. Let me make it cleaner there. So I'm going to make it cleaner so that you can see it properly. You can stop the video now because that's just what I wanted to show you. It's very simple. You don't need to. You can just stop the video there. Very, very simple. So when I do it again, you see we get all our results in 2 seconds, but we have access to all the results. Now let's say for example now I increase the time to let's say the first is 1 second, the second is 3 seconds, and the third is 2 seconds. Now for this, this is going to take us 6 seconds to complete if I'm going to use this method. You see now if I do this and I come here, this is our slow method. If I trigger, it's going to take 1 second, another 3 seconds or 2. I think I did not change, or did I? Okay, I'm supposed to reload. Yes, so I'm supposed to reload that. Okay, so now when I trigger that, 1 second, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. So that gave us 6 seconds. That's just too much. Now with our beautiful solution, Beautiful solution. Let me change this. Look at that beautiful solution now. You see, as soon as I do this, we're only going to wait for 3 seconds. Every other thing will be processed. You see, it's now 3 seconds. So that is how you can reduce your request time by just adding Promise.all to your code. So thank you for watching. Make sure to put this in practice. I'll see you later.